Is it sustainable to think in the way of having to convert and bring back? And if you look at the Lemba, they don't even want to convert. They said, why are we converting to something we're already part of? So it's really important now to bring in the writings of our sages, because we have a consensus for about 3,000 years passed on that everyone agrees on what will happen in the future times when this great awakening happens. What will happen in the future times when this great awakening happens? What will happen in the future times when this great awakening happens?
The point being, around the world, this prophecy started unfolding before our eyes. The awakening and the return of Israel. The awakening and the return of Israel. The awakening and the return of Israel. Because it says in the days of Messiah, so now we go through the prophets here, and we get to the book of Ezekiel in 36 and 37, the dead bones of Israel come back to life. And in 36 and 37, it says, in the days the Messiah returns, both sticks, Judah and Ephraim, are joined in his hand. So then we get to the New Testament, and it talks about the Jews and the Gentiles, but those Gentiles were returning Israel. Read Peter's address. He says to the dispersed of Israel, or to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, and James says the same. So this story of the Bible, guys, there was no change of the law at the middle day. It was a continuation of the story of restoration.
On right now is what I call the Great Awakening. And what is a Great Awakening? It's realizing that we've been lied to quite a bit when it comes to a certain state and a certain group of people from the Middle East, even though they're not really from the Middle East, if you know what I'm saying. This situation is getting mainstream attention. A topic that typically would get you banned everywhere is now exploding, absolutely exploding in awareness.
Because, I mean, we was the only people that was looking for a family. We was the only people that was looking to be a part of somebody's family, to be wanted. I don't care how you look at it. If you are Negro, you felt this loneliness before your awakening. And the people that we ran with was, pretty much us, our family, Negroes. Once we started to wake up, you be like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute. Wake up! Berean Scholar. Berean Scholar.
Waking up the people of the Most High. I got the knowledge to destroy the lies. DNA, history, open eyes. Walk into the darkness and turn on the lights. Wake up, 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 wake up.
And amen, and I have something interesting for you today. I believe you're going to appreciate what the Spirit delivers to you through me. And we'll begin with this fact that I mentioned during prayer. Israel was already important to me, but now it is so much more. And here's why. Now, these images will be ready. These images will be ready. All I got to do is call out the number. Okay, here we go. Let's put up first image number 9. We put up image number 9, please. But that's okay. All right. What are we looking at here? We are looking at Pastor Fred Price's 23andMe. This is my 23andMe. What do we have here? West African, 54%. What tops that list? Nigerian. Nigeria's in the building, clearly. All right. 27.5%. That's over a quarter Nigerian. What follows? Ghanaian, Liberian, and Sierra Leonean. All right. And this is broadly West African, 4.6%. Congolese and Southeast African, 6.3%. Angolan and Congolese, 5.8%. 0.5% broadly Congolese and Southern East African. Broadly Sub-Saharan African, 0.7%. And then here's the white side of me right here, under. That's a high number. Look at that, 36.3. That's right, represent. Go right ahead. I'm 1/4 British. When I went to London last year, I told every Brit I ran into, I'm 1/4 British. I'm 1/4 British. I'm also 3% Irish and 3% Scottish. I'm 30% UK. Now, some of you have done this. You've done your 23andMe. You've done your ancestry, so you know what you're made up of. Little bit of French and German. Our family thought we would have more French because my father's middle name was French. And it was daddy's daddy or daddy's granddaddy that was a full Frenchman. Who was daddy's grandfather was a full-blooded Frenchman. So we thought we would have had more French. Nevertheless, this is my 23andMe. Again, the highest percentage is Nigerian. Well, that kind of makes sense. Matter of fact, you see how much of this whole percentage is West African. Because those of us who are descendants of slaves, well, where do we come from? Or where did our forefathers come from? Came from West Africa. So this makes sense. So again, you're 23andMe. If you are what the world would call a black person living in this country who would be a descendant of slaves, your numbers possibly look like this. Now, it depends on your shade of brown or black. That would determine how much European you have in you. Okay, as you can see, I'm what some would call high yellow or maybe golden or so anyway, all right. Words like quadroon and octoroon, we don't use words like that. When you're 1/4 black or 1/8 black, etc. Okay. That's a whole lot of stuff in me. That's a whole lot of nations. A whole lot of cultures in me. I got Shem, Ham, and Yafeth in me. And many of you do as well. And many of you do as well. Okay, now, again, this is my what? This is my 23andMe. But for a while now, I've been wanting to look even beyond that. I've been wanting to go ancient. And I found it. Let's do this now. Please put up image number 3. Image number 3. All right. This is what we see here. Let me read it to you. This is my DNA that goes beyond and before 23andMe. And I'll explain to you the difference in this kind of testing and what Ancestry and similar companies do. Neolithic Southeast African, 81.1%. That makes sense. Except you have to consider Africa in its ancient day. European bell beakers. It says 6.7%. I don't know what a bell beaker is. In most cases, I would look up something like this, but I tell you what, they're European. And right under that, it says Israelite, 5%. I want to sit there for a second. This is my DNA. And it says Israelite. It says Israelite. This is my DNA. This is not theory. This is DNA. 5%. Okay. Now let's look at this. Again, I love Israel. Always have. Why? Well, I'm called to walk in love because God is love. And the Bible commands us to love his elect of old. But when you find out you're one of them, it's a different kind of test, because I'm about to show you something else. I'm going to show you my Hebrew percentage. Isn't that the same as Israelite? Not in origin. Not in origin. But first I want to show you this. Put up image number 8, please. Image number 8. Okay, this is a very small percentage. It's only 2%. But as you can read it, my average genetic similarity to the tribe of Dan. 2%. Next image, please show image number 6. Image number 6. From 2% to 6%, my genetic similarity to the tribe of Zebulun or Zebulun. Next image, please. Show image number. Let's go with image number 5. Image number 5. From 2% similarity to Dan, 6% similarity to Zebulun. My average genetic similarity to this is the Israelite portion of my DNA. 12% to the tribe of Levi. But here's the one. Here's the one. Show image number 4. Image number 4. This is the tribe that the lion comes from. Now I'm showing you 2 images here because what this test does is, it's really detailed, and they'll show you your similarity with certain persons that they have found from ancient days. Some of the names, they just have named them because they didn't know what their names were. But I want to show you this. It says, of my average genetic similarity to the tribe of Judah, 21%. Dan, 2%. Zebulun, 6%. Levi, 12%. I believe I have similarity to Simeon too, but I can't find that image. But of Judah, 21%. Of the remaining tribes, it was all less than 1%. But it says my highest genetic similarity is with a woman by the name of Nekah from the tribe of Judah. And that's a 40% similarity. Okay, so I have DNA evidence that I'm an Israelite. Now watch this. You think I'm the only one in this room? All right, let's look at this. This is the one that intrigued me the most, though. I took another test called the Semitic test. We know Israelites came from Shem, but other nations came from Shem as well. Watch this. Image number, I believe it's number 2. Yep, put up image number 2. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. Look at this. I'm going to start from the bottom. The low 2 say I have a 1.2% and 1.3% similarity with Ammonites and Moabites. Now, who are the Ammonites and the Moabites? They were the children of Moab and Ben-Ammi. Where did they come from? Well, you all remember Sodom and Gomorrah. And you all remember Lot and his wife. Well, she was addicted to the city. So she turned and looked back and became a pillar of what? But Lot and his daughters remained. And what did his daughters say? If we don't lay with our father, we will not be able to preserve our genealogy. And they laid with their father and produced the Moabites and the Ammonites. I can't believe this. I'm a 2.5% descendant of Lot. Let's take it up next. That says Hebrew, 2.3%. Now, you may say, well, I saw your Israelite 5% and your Israelite 1.3%, and of those percentages, the similarities to the tribe of Levi and Judah, etc. Well, what's this Hebrew here? Well, remember, today, in the modern era, as far back as the New Testament, to be Hebrew, Israelite, or Jew was pretty much synonymous. If I was referring to the Jews, I was referring to the Israelites. If I was referring to the Israelites, I was referring to the Hebrews. Paul shows us that, right? He says salvation was for the Jew first and then the Greek. Well, you know that Jew had to include all the tribes because Paul technically wasn't a Jew. He was from the tribe of Benjamin. So you know that when he made the statement, by that time in the known world, Hebrews, Israelites, and Jews were all synonymous terms. And we have a lot of words like that today, words that are synonymous, but their original meanings tell us a different story. Well, way back in the beginning of time, biblically speaking, that is, there were Hebrews, but there were no Israelites and Jews. Because see, Israelites come from the Hebrews and Jews come from the Israelites. Working backwards. In order to be a Jew back then, and the first time we see the word Jew in the Old Testament was attached to a man named Mordecai. It's called Mordecai the Jew. And what did it mean to be a Jew? Old Testament period. To be a Jew meant you were a Yehudite from the tribe of Judah. So if you were from Judah, you were a Jew. If you were from Dan, you were a Danite. If you were from Reuben, you were a Reubenite. If you were from Benjamin, you were a Benjamite. If you were from Levi, you were a Levite. You all know the rest. Well, where did Judah come from? Judah came from a man named Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, which means any children Israel has will be an Israelite. So all the tribes that came, or sons that came from Israel, which produced tribes, were the Israelites. And what made up the Israelites? Again, the Yehudites, the Levites, the Simeonites, the Reubenites, the Danites, the Naphthalim, etc., etc. Okay, working back further, because Jacob came from who? Isaac, and Isaac came from who? Abraham. Well, Abraham came from a very specific line. It was a line of Shem. That genealogy is mentioned in Genesis 11, verse 10. Starts off with Shem. Shem's son was Arphaxad, and we go down this list. Arphaxad had Salah. Actually, he had Canaan, and Canaan had Salah. And the list goes all the way down. You get to Terah, and then you get to Abram. Nahor and Haran, those were his brothers. Well, there's one name that really stands out in that genealogy. We also see it in Genesis 10:21. Hopefully we'll have time to get there. It's a man by the name of Eber. He's in that genealogy. Well, Eber actually gives us Hebrew. So the man Eber, the father of the Eberites, is actually the father of the Hebrews. And that line would then give us Abram, who then gives us Isaac, who gives us Jacob, who became Israel, producing Israelites, who gave us Judah, who produced Jews. Fast forward to today, again, the terms are all considered to be synonymous. But if you go back to the very beginning, if you were a Hebrew man, then any child you had was Hebrew. Because that's what you are. If you're a Hebrew man and a Hebrew woman and you have children, your children are Hebrew, even if they weren't Israelite. So let me give you some examples. Anyone ever heard of a child by the name of Ishmael, who showed up 13 years before Isaac? Well, who was Ishmael's daddy? Abraham. And was Abraham Hebrew? Yep. So what was Ishmael? Now, his mama was Egyptian. So what does that mean Ishmael was? Half Hebrew, half Egyptian. Joseph, for example. You all remember Joseph, whose haterade brothers sold him into slavery? And then he prospered in Pharaoh's kingdom? Well, one day, Joseph said, I want me a wife. And guess where he picked his wife from? Guess where that Israelite Hebrew boy picked his wife from? The Egyptians. He took an Egyptian wife and had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So what does that tell me about Ephraim and Manasseh? Half Hebrew, or half Israelite, half Egyptian. We see these minglings all throughout the scripture. Put that list back up. Image number 2. Y'all still here with me? Okay. Hebrew, 2.3%. Again, the children of Eber would become the Hebrews. And the reason why, remember, everyone spoke the same language. Y'all remember that, right? You remember what happened at the Tower of Babel? God confounded the languages so they would not understand one another's speech. Well, what happened? All of mankind got behind King Nimrod because he used his words in a clever way. I mean, they just decided to follow old, wicked, evil, anti-God Nimrod. Well, Eber said, not me and my house. And he didn't allow his children to participate in the building of the tower, and therefore his language was preserved. So the language of Adam became Hebrew in Eber, and then you had all these other diverse languages. For example, what do I see above Hebrew? I'm 5.6% Phoenician. I shared this with you. This is where we get our alphabet from. I know you heard it was the Greeks. They got it from these black-skinned folk called Phoenicians. Just to let you know. And who were the Phoenicians? Canaanites. Whoa, I'm 5.6% Canaanite. But look at that top one right there. Ethiopic. Now, 44%. The total percentage here is 55. That means I'm over half Semite. I'm a 55% Semite. I'm 55% from the line of Shem. That's major for me. Okay. I want you to see this. You see that Ethiopic? Now, when you hear the word Ethiopic, what's the first country you think of? And why wouldn't you think of Ethiopia? Makes all the sense in the world. Which, by the way, who were the Ethiopians? Well, let's go to Genesis 10:6. With your permission, may I take my time quickly? Okay. Go to Genesis 10:6. We're going to get the rest of these scriptures in. I want you to see this. I need you to see it. Genesis 10:6. Okay, watch this. It says that the sons of Ham were who? Cush. You also see Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Okay, which means that these are Hamites. They're the sons of Ham. Our European nations come from the first son mentioned, Japheth. That's where you get your Greece, your Spain, your Italy, your Thracians. The list goes on. They all come from Japheth. And then we get to Ham in verse 6, and it says the sons of Ham were, again, Cush, Put, or Cush, Mizraim, Put, and who? And Canaan. Well, working from the end of the list, we know who the Canaanites were. We know that their land would eventually become the land of Israel. Before that, you have Put. Who did Put give us? Anyone ever heard of a nation called Libya? Okay, Put gave us the Libyans. But back then, ancient Libya was all of North Africa, west of Egypt. So today you have an Algeria and a Tunisia and a Morocco. All of that was Libya. And then before that, you have Mizraim, which means Egypt. Upper and lower Egypt. And then before that, you got Cush. Okay, watch this. Go back to Genesis 10:6. Look here. The sons of Ham were Cush. I want to focus on this Cush. Because from Cush, you get an empire known as the Nubian Empire. Nubia meaning black. Well, Cush is also known as, guess what? Ethiopia. You want to know what Ethiopia means? I'm going to show you what Cush and Ethiopia means. Put up number, image number, we're going to look at 11 and 12. Here we go. 11, there we go. All right, Cush. Okay, Cush, it says in parentheses, or Ethiopia. Now today, if you see an Ethiopian or an Eritrean, they have very unique features. But that's not how the first Ethiopians looked. They're Ethiopian, but it's not how the original ones that came out of the loins of Ham look. You want to know how they look? Like this stage. Okay, watch this. Cush was the son of Ham. I'm gonna just be straight up with you. You want to know why I'm gonna be straight up with you? Because Mr. James Strong, in his concordance, he was straight up with us. Cush mean black. Okay, that's what it means. Which means Ethiopia means black. That's what it means. It means black. Now here's what's interesting. One of the first examples that we have here is Psalm 7. And in Psalm 7, we are introduced to a Benjamite who comes from Israel who has the name Cush. Now, listen, let's just use a little common sense. Ain't no way my mama is going to name me Cush if I don't look like I'm Cush. Because you just, lady, I don't know if you realize, you just named your son Black. And that was a Benjamite from the tribe of Benjamin who came from Israel. His name was Cush. That's number one. Number two, we know he's the son of Ham, grandson of Noah, progenitor or father of the southernmost peoples located in specifically North Africa. The Nubian kingdom was found at the northern border of Sudan and the southern border of Egypt. Move me to the next image, I believe number 12. This is the rest of the definition. Here we go. Right, the peoples who descended from Cush, also the land occupied by the descendants of Cush, located around the southern parts of the Nile. That's who Cush is. Now, Cush is Ethiopia. I just showed you my Semitic DNA. You saw Ethiopic. Well, what is that? Let me give it to you in its fullness. All right, put up image number 18. Image number 18. Y'all still here? Okay. Image number, so I looked up Ethiopic and it just said another term for Ge'ez or Ge'ez. I'm like, that don't help me. So I said, well, I need to look up this Ge'ez or Ge'ez. So put up image number 19, please. Image number 19. Ge'ez. Now watch this. This shows you how folk on day one were mixing and mingling. Whole lot of they were really knowing each other. Why do I say that? Well, watch this. That first word, 44% of my Semitic makeup is Ethiopic, which sounds like Ethiopia, which is Cush, which means black, which comes from Ham, and yet Ethiopic, which is synonymous with Ge'ez, is an ancient Semitic language? How can a language from Ethiopia be Semitic when Ethiopia comes from Ham, not Shem? Look at this. An ancient Semitic language of Ethiopia and Eritrea, which survives as the liturgical language of the Ethiopian and Eritrean Orthodox churches. It's also called Ethiopic. That's what this Ge'ez is, or Ge'ez. So that at some point, some Cushites and some Ethiopians got to know some Semites. Well, it's just like the Canaanites. The Canaanites were from Ham, but they ended up taking land that didn't belong to them. They took the land that would go to Israel. That land wasn't for them. But the Canaanites would then, again, born from Ham, the Canaanites would become a Semitic speaking people and adopt Semitic ways. So we're really seeing this mix of the sons of Ham and the sons of Shem. Now, look at this. Go back to Genesis 10. We're almost done. Bear with me, please. We're almost there. Look at this. Genesis 10, we already read verse 6. Let's read verse 7 now. It says, the sons of Cush were Seba. So these are the sons of black. Havilah, Sabta, Ra'amah, Sabteka, and the sons of Ra'amah were Sheba. We're familiar with Sheba. And Dedan. They all came from Ham. This Havilah came from Ham. I read about Havilah in the Garden of Eden account. But also in Shem's line, there's a Havilah. And today it said that Havilah is Yemen, which is south of Arabia, which would then be Semitic. But I see Havilah and Shem and Ham, just like Ethiopia and Canaan. There's been this Hamitic and Semitic intermingling for a long time. Look at verse 8. Cush begot Nimrod. We know this account. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Again, the word Nimrod has been used incorrectly to refer to people as idiots or stupid, right? You would call, there were times, I don't know if people still use it today, but there was a time where you would call someone you thought was stupid, oh, you're a Nimrod. And they don't realize you were complimenting somebody in this sense. Nimrod was brilliant. He was a brilliant black-skinned man, but he was also the most wicked man in the earth at the time. So again, not fully a compliment. It's why, if you go back, look at your Looney Tunes cartoons, and you'll see why Bugs Bunny always called Elmer Fudd the hunter a Nimrod.
All right.
That comes from the scriptures, because Nimrod was the mighty hunter before the Lord. Okay. Verse 10. Watch this. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. We all know about Babel. Babel would become Babylon. Erech, or Urk, Akkad, home of the Akkadians, and Calneh in the land of Shinar, biblical Mesopotamia. And then it says from that land he went to Assyria. This is where it gets important. Assyria comes from Asher, who comes from Shem. So again, you got a Hamite going into the land of a Semite and building his kingdom. What does that mean? There was some mixing going on. Oh, watch this. He built Nineveh, abode of Ninus or Nimrod. Rehoboth, Kala, and Rezin between Nineveh and Kala, that is the principal city. Mizraim begot Ladim and Namim, this is Egypt. Lehabim, Naphtahim, Pathrasim, and Cashlahim. This is what I want you to see. From whom came the who? Look at that. The Philistines, who we know were enemies of Israel. We know the most famous Philistine was the giant Goliath, whom David the Israelite killed. The Philistines came from Egypt. Gives us an idea as to what the Philistines look like. Okay, but then, look at verse 15. Canaan begot Sidon. Sidon was a wealthy Phoenician city. His firstborn in Heth, father of the Hittites. And then you have all these ites, right? In verse 16 and 17 and 18. And then it says that the families of the Canaanites were dispersed. And verse 19 says the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon as you go toward Gerar, a Philistine territory. As far as what? Anybody ever heard of Gaza? Okay. Let me give you a little more history. If you go to Gaza, or if you want to see Gaza, where do you have to go? You have to take an Israel-Palestine trip, in which we know tensions are very severe there. Okay, watch this. So if I want to see Gaza, well, that's where I'd have to go today. But wait a minute, Palestine wasn't always Palestine. Palestine used to be called Philistia. And who came from Philistia, or who built Philistia? The Philistines. That's right. So Gaza basically comes out of Egypt, who comes out of Ham. I want to show you all of these interminglings. Okay. Now, y'all got some patience? I mean, it's not going to be super long, but do you have some patience so that I don't end abruptly? Okay, look, go to Exodus chapter 2 now. Look, we're going to do Exodus, Numbers, Habakkuk, and Romans, and we'll be done. Okay? Well, I want you to see this. I got to end with Romans, though, because this is the day of prayer for the peace of Yerushalayim. Oh, all right. Look at this. Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. See, I got to give you all of this. You all know that I never take a shortcut. I always go the scenic route when I teach. I have to. Now, it makes me a bit of a minority pastor and a minority teacher, but I got to go the scenic route because I need you to see some stuff. Now, how many of you know that Charleston Heston is not what Moses looked like? You know that, right? Now, because of the racial tension in the country at the time, I get why he was portrayed as Moses. I get it for the day.
Yes.
It was still unacceptable because if you watch the Ten Commandments, you'll see that black people were cast.
Right.
But I get it. You can't, the main guy. The problem, though, is in today.
Okay, come on now.
When the films are still being whitewashed. So when Christian Bale, great actor, Dark Knight, Batman all day. But when Christian Bale is playing Moses in our modern era, That's a shame. It's not. In other words, if history said a person was black, portray him as black. If history says a person was white, portray him as white. Okay, why am I saying all of that? Because if you want to know what the Israelites look like, you can learn from what the Egyptians look like. Exodus 2:11. It came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, and he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. Who were his brethren? The Israelites, the children of Israel. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he said, I'm going to take him out. Killed him, buried him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, 2 Hebrew men were fighting, and he said to the one who did wrong, why are you striking your companion? Then he said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? Uh-oh, somebody knows. So Moses feared and said, okay, I'm busted. So when Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in a particular land, a land called Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and they drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. But then the shepherds came and they drove them away. These random shepherds came, drove them away. But Moses helped these daughters, who were shepherdesses, by the way. They were female shepherds. He stood up, helped them, watered their flock. When they came back to Ruel, also known as Jethro, their father, he said, how is it that you have come so soon today? And what did his daughters say? An Egyptian delivered us. Oh, you mean to tell me that Israelite young man named Moses looked like an Egyptian? Sit with that for a second. They thought this dark-skinned man was an Egyptian, but he was an Israelite. Oh, look at that. So I don't know how Mr. I don't know. You don't be looking like an Egyptian. So he said to his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave him Zipporah, but you probably know her better as Sephora. Anybody ever been to Sephora? No, that's Zipporah. Go on right in there. You shopping at Zipporah. Okay. And so they married. Well, notice that it says here in verse 16, they were in Midian, a priest of Midian. Well, where did the Midianites come from? Well, they came from Abraham and Keturah. Genesis 25 had a son named Midian. That means Midian was half Hebrew and half whatever his mama was, Keturah, which many believe may have been a Canaanite. We just know she came out of the household of Abraham, came from his house. So Midian was, let me take it a step further. History tells us that the Midianites were as black as Ethiopians. Look at Habakkuk chapter 3. No, Numbers 12. Look at Numbers 12. We're going to look at one verse. I know I'm long-winded, but Numbers 12, look here. You all may remember the great Apostle Price teaching on this. I'm just going to read one verse. Look at Numbers 12, verse 1. What does it say? Then Miriam and Aaron, what they do? What did the siblings, what did the family do? They spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. Maybe a little prejudice here? Not racism the way we know it today, but cultural ethnic prejudice back. In other words, Moses, she's not an Israelite. She's not Hebrew. Well, notice this is his second wife. His first wife was a Midianite, black. His second wife was an Ethiopian, black. Yeah, matter of fact, and again, when I say black, rumor has it I'm black, but I'm not talking about this kind of black. Again, I'm talking about this kind of black right here. I'm talking about this kind of black right here. Not that kind of black. Ethiopians was looking like this. Midianites were looking like this. And Moses clearly had an affinity. He said, I want my women black as night. I want a Lupita. If you don't know what that means, okay. This is what all right, look, watch this. Watch this. Y'all still here? Stop playing around. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I need you to see now. Put up image, I think number 10. Yep, put up image number 10. We just looked at this. Yeah, image number 10. There it is. This is what Ethiopian means in the Bible. Cushite. Watch this. Ethiopian, it says, see Cushan. We're about to look at that in a second. But it means what? Their blackness. So Ethiopia means black. To be an Ethiopian means their blackness. Now look at this in Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 3. Y'all know where that is, right? Habakkuk. Y'all know the chapter, the book where you find out that you need to write the vision down and make it plain? That book. Just not chapter 2. Go to chapter 3. I want you to see one thing here. Verse 7. Habakkuk 3:7. Let me know when you're there. You there? Okay. So before we read this scripture, let me get my other definition ready. Yeah, there we go. Okay. What does it say? Habakkuk 3:7. Okay, this is prophetic language, but it says what? I saw the tents of Cushan. That sounds like Cush, right? But it's not exactly Cush. It has to do with, watch this, in affliction, the curtains of the land of Midian trembled. Cushan seems to be in relation to Midian. And the Midianites were said again to be the dark-skinned Arabian people of northwest Arabia. What does Cushan mean? Which is affiliated with, watch this, not Ethiopia, but Midian. What does it mean? Put up image number 17. Image number 17 gives, Cushan. What does it mean? Their blackness. It means the same thing Ethiopian means. So you have people coming from Ham that are black as night, and you have people coming from Shem that are also black as night. Now, that's not how everyone turned out. Not every Hamite was as dark as an Ethiopian. Not every Semite was as dark as the Midianites. Matter of fact, even from Japheth, the father of the European nations, he produced some dark-skinned folk. Now today we see a broad mix of peoples, and that's because of location. Those lived closer to the equator than some. Some were in the Caucasus Mountains for quite some time, not receiving the amount of sun people who live near the equator were receiving. A lot of different factors. You also have to factor in that there was no longer a firmament. It's just a number of things you have to consider. Then you also have to consider the sin nature. A number of things. Okay. Now, look at Romans. That Semitic, 55% Semitic DNA of your pastor. It shows a number of things. It shows that, as it has been said, many of the slaves or descendants of slaves were from the tribe of Judah. Many of the slaves or descendants of slaves were from the tribe of Judah. Many of the slaves or descendants of slaves were from the tribe of Judah. And it shows that the Negroes, who we call Negroes, they didn't come from Ham, they came from Shem. See, black comes in a whole lot of shades. You all know that, right? See, we live in a heated society. See, slavery for America was very particular. Wasn't like slavery. See, you enslaved in ancient antiquity. You enslaved nations that weren't you. So when the Romans enslaved nations, it's because they weren't Roman, and it didn't matter if they had the same skin color as them. Romans enslaved Greeks. They enslaved Egyptians, they enslaved Persians, they enslaved the Scandinavians, the Nordic white-skinned people. They enslaved them all. But this what we've been living in for 400 something years, this has been real particular, and it's ultimately been about black and white. But see, those are trick words. Because what does that really mean? I'm black. When you say I'm black, what is that? It sounds like we're talking about something else other than skin color. Because I'm looking at a whole lot of people in here that are supposedly black. And some of y'all whiter than white people. But you black. Your skin looks white to me. If you really want to, have you ever seen an Indian? I don't mean a Native American. I mean an Indian from India. Dark as this sweater I'm wearing. Black. You ever seen the Pacific Islanders, the Fiji? You ever seen a Fijian? You seen that hair? Negro. They black. Samoans, black. Tongans, black. Cambodians, black. Vietnamese, black. Filipinos, black and brown. Cambodians, Burmese, they're dark. Did you know that there is a set of islands called the Negro Islands? Guess where the Negro Islands are? Asiatic part of Asia. Not Africa. Look it up. Look up the Negro Islands and look at the people of the Negro Islands. And you'll see features that are very similar to the Far Eastern peoples of Asia, but they skin black as all know what. In the world today. So that black stuff and that white stuff, those are trick words. I've seen Spanish-speaking people. Their skin is whiter than whites from Texas. So what does it really mean? Right? Words that were created to keep this tension going, because racism really was a race. I mean a race. Okay. All right. We're going to end here. Sorry, but not sorry. Here we go. Romans. Now, the reason why I did all of that, because again, you have to imagine someone like me. I think many of you at least kind of know me. You kind of know me from my teaching style. So you know that I am interested in the history behind the scriptures and the history in alignment with the scriptures. You all know I'm a heavy researcher. So can you imagine discovering that I too am Israel? That's mind-blowing.
A lot of people are waking up now.
What do you think about this topic? Remember to be a Berean scholar, as it is written in the book of Acts 17 verses 11 to 12. Now the Bereans were more noble-minded than the Thessalonians, for they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if these teachings were true. It's time to deepen your understanding and see your reflection within the sacred pages. Please click subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with the Berean Scholar channel.